keeping 6 or 7 wide receivers on the roster in a given year, and then how you assess how Cephas has played so far?
Yeah, I mean, the roster is always kind of fluid, sometimes week to week, of how do we build the best 53, getting ourselves to a game day active roster. Who are you risk losing if you make available, if you put on waiver wires versus who could you potentially bring back, things like that. That all comes into play. But, ideally you've got 3 guys that you know are going to contribute most of the pass game to, a 4th guy that can be versatile or have some sort of role, and then depending 5th, 6th, a lot of that comes down to special teams. I mean, ideal world, we're not throwing the ball to the 5th receiver a lot of times on game day when there's 5 guys up. It's the top 3 guys you're kind of rolling through, plus tight ends, running backs, whatever the matchups determine. And then that guy has versatility to play multiple spots or thrive in a certain role, but probably gets a game day jersey because of special teams, most likely. And then we have a lot of guys like Cephas that you're asking about that kind of fit that mold of, how do they fit? Where do they fit in 4th, 5th, 6th? What's their value as a receiver? What's their value on special teams as well?
What more do you want to do with Ingram this year?
There's a lot of things. I think Evan is such a dynamic ball carrier that a lot of it is get him the ball as quick as he can, running away from people. But I think an element that he's always had is getting down the field, really. And sometimes it's trying to find what the matchup is. You can get him on safeties, that. There's certain looks. We don't get a lot of matchups with him against linebackers necessarily versus man. We get a lot of safety carry looks. We get a lot of people that will play us nickel to 12 personnel when he's in the game. So then is it worth the tight end matchup against a nickel or a safety when you could get a receiver in that matchup? So there's kind of a give and take. You're always, if we give him this, we're taking that from somebody else. But there's a lot of those elements, and he's done a good job, particularly when he's in the core blocking second level. When we have a couple schemes where he gets on the second level quickly, he does a pretty good job in that stuff. So that's something we're just continuing to try to evolve. But getting him the football quickly, things happen quickly and happen pretty well for him. He's a good ball carrier.
He has the skills to be able to make those plays.
He does. And he's really good as a contested catch guy, kind of above the shoulders as well. That's something he's done really well, kind of those half back shoulder, half contested catch type situations.
Is he pushing for more work downfield a little bit to talk to you about?
No, not necessarily, but he'll do anything we ask. So it's just something as we go and look at our offense of attacking all sorts of parts of the field, whether it be vertically or horizontally. He's certainly a guy that can give us that.
Russ Ryan's brought in a few guys that he's worked with before. Either he's coached with them or they played for him. How much as a coordinator, how much does familiarity with people you have on the staff coming in sort of exacerbate the process of transferring that knowledge, transferring the philosophy you want to the players, and ultimately, getting to the point where you're winning games?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think you're comfortable with the people that you've been around. You have shared experiences with. Now there's value in outside voices, people you don't know. Ultimately, it's how you all work together. So whether that's new people that your personalities mesh really well together, or people that you've been through the fire with that how everybody's going to respond and your personalities mesh, that's ultimately that's how it's going to work. It's people working together. But I think there's certainly, if you have shared experience with somebody, that's going to help kind of tighten that bond and be able to lean on that bond at the right times.
You told us that you took the offense as a group down, I think you phrased it down to the studs or something like that a week or 2 ago when you met with us. How has that process gone? Are you pleased with the growth, and can you describe the growth that you guys have had?
Yeah, it was really more so than anything was our run game, of just the terminology, the structure, the progression of the way we teach it, because that's something we haven't been as good as we want to be. And so moving forward, we kind of pared it down. What's really important to us? What do we want to be really good at? What have we been good at? How do we build this thing, rebuild this thing from scratch? And that's really where our main focus was. I think guys are seeing that. I think the progression, the way we've taught it so far through the offseason has really stuck with guys. There's probably a clear understanding. There's probably more of things fitting in certain families to where the rules, the techniques are carrying over from play to play. But again, you honestly have no idea if you can run the ball until the game starts. Preseason only gives you so much. Obviously, off-season doesn't give you a whole lot. It gives you targeting and landmarks and footwork and technique, but there's no physicality. We talked about that last time. Even into training camp, there's only so much you can do. You'll get a handful of days that are full speed, but it's just really not a ton. And then you kind of got to got to hope that your training has taken you to the point where now when the bullets are flying, we know what we're doing and we know how to respond.
Have you noticed a difference in Parker Washington?
Yeah, Parker's definitely playing more confidently. I think he's a lot healthier than he was this time last year when we got him. But just things slow down. As guys, they're not worried every time they break the huddle about what I'm doing, where am my stance, how's this route change if they play this. Now he's heard it 100 times. So we give a play call, we give a route, we move him around. He knows the expectations of that particular player in that particular concept. And so now you just see the skill set start to come out. So that confidence is a big thing, and it's he'll continue to grow. He was put in the fire last year, was moved around a couple spots, made some plays. I think that certainly contributes to some confidence from the playmaking himself, but he's continuing to grow.
Kind of combining a couple of things. Gabe and Brian have both said that they value blocking. Like they understand. O'Brien said that at LSU, if you didn't block, you couldn't get on the field. How has that maybe shifted your view of those 6 wide receivers, that 6 or 7 wide receivers you would keep on the roster? Additionally, having those 2 players, as you take this thing down to the studs, how does their skill set maybe force you to completely alter what you did from a year ago?
Yeah, obviously we feel like kind of the interior, the core unit is going to help us efficiently run the football. But efficiency turns into explosion when the receivers are blocking. And you get those 4-yard runs turn into 14-yard runs because we got hats on the safety, we're carrying corners out, whatever that may be. And we're not going to ask those guys to go block middle linebackers. I mean, that's not part of it. There's going to be a time and a place where you're blocking a D-end or you're blocking a linebacker. It may be a frontside pin pull, it may be backside cutoff, it may be getting to the second level on a toss-crack series. But for the most part, we're blocking 4 safeties, we're blocking cloud corners, things we think those guys can do. Now, certainly, their size helps. They're both big, strong, physical guys. For the most part, Gabe's done it in the NFL, which is a big deal. Brian will get him worked in on certain concepts, but everybody has to block. We ask Christian to block. Christian blocks point of attack. Christian blocks the backside of things. Sometimes it's the changing pictures where it gets hard. You have to block the 4 safety. Well, the 4 safety could be front side, could be backside, could be somebody blitzing off the slot. And so you trust those guys that know how to do that really well. So having more of them helps us. Now we're less into this guy's on the front side, the runs to him, this guy's on the back side, the runs away. Like, it just helps you eliminate tendencies as you go, having more guys that can do more things.
What have your thoughts been on Mac Jones this offseason?
Mac's done a great job just getting in here and learning the offense. I mean, he's a sponge. He loves football. He loves learning football, talking football. He's constantly in the building. He's constantly asking questions. He's constantly talking, which is one thing you just, hey, shut up. I got to give you a play call real quick. He just runs his mouth all the time, which is fun. It makes practice fun. He's chirping with the DBs all the time. It's hard right now when we don't have helmets on, so there's no headset communicator. I have to physically get him to come talk to me to give him the next play call. So I got to get him to stop talking, give him a play call. But he's done a great job just learning. You see his experience. He's played a lot of football. All the concepts we run, he's run at some point in time. So some of it's translating. And then you try to, as quickly as you can, get away from the old language you have. You can't keep telling yourself, oh, this is this. Well, this is this, and at a certain point it's got to go away, and it's got to be this is this. And this is how we communicate. This is our language. He's done that. He's playing quicker each day that he gets, every rep he gets. So we're glad we have him.
We always like to talk about that change of scenery for a player. I
Yeah.
mean, is that real?
I think so. I think there's certain times where, it just gets tough, and it's nice to have a breath of fresh air. It's nice. It's fun to learn a new system. It's fun to talk new language with the group, and I think you're kind of seeing that with him right now.
What do you like most about what you've gotten done this offseason?
I think we've established a tempo, and that's something that not necessarily like no huddle, but a tempo in and out of the huddle, the way we want to meet, just establishing our standard for this is what it looks like. Now, we'd love to say we established this physicality that we're going to be, but that's just not real right now. So there's certain things of the tempo, the way we communicate, in and out of the huddle, playing at the line of scrimmage. There's a couple different things that I feel confident we've been able to do. And then, like we talked about, just our run progression of this is our starting point, this is how we build on this is how it all fits together, to where there's more understanding. It's not memorization. It's now we understand why this word means this, how this relates to that, and our blocking schemes are the same, our combinations are the same.
How much of that's Trevor?
A big part of that's Trevor. I mean, a big part of that's familiarity. I mean, we have, I would say, 75, 80% of the group has been here before. So they kind of understand why things went away, why things changed the way they were called, why we do things we do. You know, it helps when your teach tapes are now our guys, and there's no more indie clips, Philly clips. It's us for 2 years, whether it's training camp, off-season, competitive joint practices, games, whatever that is. So I think that certainly helps guys watching themselves on tape as well.
What do you look for from young offensive linemen this time of year? Like Javon Foster, Simon Jones. How do you kind of figure out where they're at this time of year?
That's hard because a lot of it for them, there's so much more learning for offensive linemen than there was in college. Just we have a number of different calls. We're trying to build their toolbox is a big thing of you face this sort of rusher, this is how you're going to approach it this week, and it changes every single week. So they're seeing a lot of that throughout the offseason just based on whether you're playing Josh Allen, Deshaun Dixon, Trayvon Walker, like all these different types of rushers. You start to see how that changes. So you see how they handle it, how they adjust. But a lot of it, you're just trying to get them to learn what they can do, what the tools are. They really, one of the big things, they haven't heard plays in the huddle, and they haven't really used cadence at the line. I mean, a lot of it was no huddle. You got a signal. You heard the quarterback clap. Let's roll. We have to vary the cadence. We have a lot more play calls. You hear it in the huddle. So there's a whole process that you're just trying to get them through really to now their skill set flourishes. It's a little bit going back to like Parker. Parker's settled in. He's more confident now. You want to get them through that as fast as possible so you can see their skill set take over.
What has Brian done right? What has Brian done right to help his adjustment in the NFL?
I think he's just really diligent. One of the things we're trying to get him to talk more, just ask more questions. He's not a big talker. So you're not always sure. You're searching for feedback. Are you picking up what we're saying? Well, so far it's always translated over the field pretty good. So, okay, he's getting it in some way, shape, or form. We want more out of him communication-wise, just so we know what he's thinking. Does this make sense to you? How do you relate this? For the most part, he just kind of nods and looks at you and then goes out on the field and does it right. So that's encouraging. At least he's doing it right, not wrong, and you're looking for that. But he does a great job. However he's getting it, whether it's from the meeting room, extra studying at night, carrying it over to the field, he's done a good job of that so far. And we're just trying to expose him to as much as possible so that, you know, if he misses a signal or misses an alert that was something real subtle in a huddle, it doesn't happen twice. And with him, so far, he's not repeating any mistakes.
When will he start to communicate with you guys? I mean, at what point do you kind of like, all right, man, we really got to know what you're thinking at this point?
Hopefully we just annoy him enough to where he starts talking back to us. Because we're just trying to encourage him to talk more and more. And I think it's just getting comfortable in your surroundings. I mean, he's lived in Baton Rouge forever. Now he's living in Jacksonville. You're staying in a hotel. You're finding your way into work. You're finding out where the cafeteria. There's so much new for these guys that you're trying to just get them to settle in, and then eventually we hope that kind of takes over a little more with him.
What do you like as a coach? How do you approach it when you see the schedule actually come out? You know, the order, like with Miami and Cleveland, non-divisional teams.
Yeah.
When do you like to start working on them? Do you wait or do you start
As
immediately?
quick as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout the summer, I'll spend time just kind of watching through. And we were fortunate. We played Cleveland. We played Baltimore, which is kind of where we're going off with Miami so far with Anthony Weaver over there. But same idea. You go through, you watch your past, you watch as much as you can throughout that. We'll spend time really in training camp, kind of when we have those free moments of searching through certain things. There may be days where we show, like you said, Cleveland. We'll show Cleveland blitzes. We may not even tell our guys it's Cleveland blitzes, but as coaches, we'll put these in, kind of introduce it a little bit, and start working on that here and there. But as far as the schedule goes, I mean, you kind of look at those first four opponents. We'll start there. And then everything kind of flows from that.
Since I don't think we'll talk to you till July, the proposed new schedule for the off-season that potentially could happen where there would be no OTAs.
Yeah.
If you could just discuss, A, from a coach's point of view, do you like the schedule the way it is now? And then B, what that would mean for younger players to not have the OTA perhaps, but then have an earlier training.
Yeah, is that what they're proposing? That you come back mid-July and just start like 2 weeks on the front end? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is really all I know, so I like it the way it is. I mean, I went through the COVID year where obviously had no off-season 1 year. The next year I was in Indy, and we had like a 2-week agreement with our players. We just did 2 weeks. So that was all different. I mean, there's good and bad with it. Really, tell us what the rules are, and we'll figure out how we're going to adjust to it. I don't know if I necessarily have an opinion. it would probably change our schedule from the get-go. And so, I mean, as long as we have some summer break or something, that'd be nice. But
Do you think it would get same?
Yeah.
Do you think it would affect with younger players, like for example,
Yeah.
like the Josh Cephas's, these undrafted free agent rookies?
Yeah.
Would it be kind of unfair to them to perhaps only have 2 preseason games, even if it's an extended training camp?
yeah, and same deal like we're talking about. They're swimming. A lot of these young guys right now, they join in the middle of phase 2. They get 1 week of phase 2 with the vets, and then they're kicked into the deep end. We're playing. It's OTA, it's spring ball. We're practicing against each other. So you kind of get those kinks out of the way early, and then they come back for training camp. They know the speed. We're going through the install again, where that process would be hard. I mean, I would assume you'd pick them, get them a playbook, whatever it is, but then they don't come in for 2 months. Yeah, that would be tough probably for young players. But I think they don't really have a seat at the table in CBA. The young guys don't, and the old guys like the way it is, that they know it. And so I don't know how that plays out. Just tell me when I need to be here and what we're doing. We'll figure it out from there.
Spoke of the 2020 COVID season, where you kind of had an offseason that was sort of like that plan.
Yeah.
That's apparently reportedly where they got the idea from.
Yeah.
Do you have any lessons learned from that offseason that may, potentially, if it's passed, make this a little bit easier of a transition for those young guys?
Yeah, honestly, I'd have to go back. I mean, that was kind of just make it up as we go. Things change daily. Things change weekly. So we were always kind of just flying by the seat of our pants there. So I don't know if I'd have to go back and really look at what we did, our calendar, what kind of use we got. I think it made everybody a lot more organized as coaches, because you're at home all the time. All you have is video, and so we all got our cut-ups in order and things like that. The teach tapes together. But yeah, I'd really have to go back and look at that.
Thanks, Bryce. We gotta go, guys. You kick everybody loose. What do the quarterbacks do? Like, do you want them to make sure they take like a 2 or 3 week break where there's no football, they're not talking or thinking about it at all?
We more so just give them a plan of like, here's what you need to improve on throughout. Here's what we'd like to see when you get back for training camp. Now, how they go about that's different for each guy. Some guys want to go off and train with their quarterback coach. Some guys stick around here, work out here. You'll talk here and there, play golf with them, whatever it is. Some guys just go off on vacation. But for the most part, it's here's what we expect you to be ready for when training camp hits. Yep.